One of my goals this year was to read more nonfiction. So when Crosscrow Books sent this out to me, I was ecstatic. A Traveler's Guide to Making Magic by Lisa McSherry. Bob and I don't travel much. I've always wanted to travel. So when this came in, I was like, oh, I'm not a traveler, but I was pleasantly surprised. Let's get into it. Traveler's Guide to Making Magic by Lisa McSherry. Oh, it's that soft rose petal finish. I love that stuff. It's published by Crosscrow Books. Retails for $19.95. And it says, keep your practice sharp wherever you go. Travel puts us all in liminal spaces, but despite many practitioners' affinity for spaces betwixt and between, they come along with practical and magical dilemmas. A Traveler's Guide to Making Magic provides templates and examples for practicing in a broad range of locations and circumstances. Pagans and witches alike will find utility in this book worth a spot in their suitcase. A Traveler's Guide to Making Magic explores the practical, the magical, and the ethical, responsible, and sustainable travel. Through travel-specific charms and spells, as well as divination for the path ahead, Lisa McSherry provides an experienced and insightful guide for modern practitioners seeking to incorporate a little bit of magic into their everyday journeys. Wow. Okay. So let's dive into this. I annotated in the book. I'm sorry if that bothers you. I do that a lot. Things I want to remember. And then I take notes. So fun. It's been keeping me busy. Reminds me of back when I was working at the school helping the kids with their book reports and stuff. I'm loving it. The introduction, she talks all about like after the illness that we went through and like as a collective in 2020, almost everything, and moved to Portugal. So from the United States, I was like, oh my God, that's Bob and I would love to do that. So it's all talking about that. And then they realized that traveling offered more than just postcard possibilities, that she really took it as a way to deepen her magical practice. Here she goes over like ethical travel. A lot of companies are greenwashing these days to make it look like they're environmentally friendly. She gives a lot of resources here on how to check to see if your venue is truly a green company. Ways to lower your carbon footprint while you're traveling. These little boxes were so cute. It's her and her experiences and how magic either helped or she should have listened type of deal. Things that she grabbed in the moment and made magical. Love that. And how by visiting different cultures, she immersing herself into the culture that they're visiting has really deepened her, not only her life, but her magical practice as well. Learning all the different customs and, charms and stuff like this. And how to use this book. So she recommends reading it through once and then diving into whatever section you want to, if there's more research in it, a topic that she introduces you to. There's things in here I would never have thought of. I mean, I don't travel, so I would never have thought of any of that. And she even gives tips like if you're going down to the store or out for the day, it's not just traveling abroad, which I appreciate because I can't afford that. I love what she wrote here. She says, may the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. May the rain fall gently upon your fields, and until we meet again, may the all hold you in the palm of its hand. I love that. I'm going to put that in my journal. Everything goes in my journal. So basic magic is, she assumes that the reader is fairly new to magic, and she defines paganism and even as a newcomer, trust your instincts, question everything, even what I'm saying, she writes. Like any tool, magic can help or harm. And it's all about, she breaks it down into 4 main steps: intent, creation, raising, and sending, right? How to write clear intentions, and then creating your magic. So she recommends creating a personal collection of symbolic language, walks us through how to do a cone of power and how to release the energy. She gives a lot of tips on how to do magic and workings covertly, which is nice, in crowded places, or which is good for witches that are in the broom closet too, because, you can't really show what you're doing. So it's nice to be able to do it covertly. She has some wonderful tips on meditation here. She sat on these stones and thought about like her ancestors and how these were laid intentionally thousands of years ago, and her ancestors sat in that same area and watched the natural world go by. That connection must have been amazing. That was in Bagmore Stone Circles in Northern Ireland. Sorry if I mispronounced that. That is wonderful. I have family from there as well. Or not that island, but Ireland. She gives a great breakdown of breathing techniques for meditation. Goes through the macrocosm and the microcosm. Sympathetic magic, which is a lot of what I use. The law of similarity, the law of contact or contagion. She says walnuts for brains. I love that, and I would never have thought of that. But yeah, if you're doing a memory spell or a, better memory, or you have a test coming up or something, do a spell with half a walnut. They look just like brains. Love that. Chapter 2 is all about correspondences. Now this is my jam. She talks about how symbols are creative language and how they are formed. So how to create your own symbols and interrelationships and the web of associations, which is that web of weird that I always talk about. And here she says cedar is an herb associated with the earth, but also summer. But I associate cedar with winter. So only because we burn it in the winter. So I guess a lot of the correspondences are based upon location as well, right? And she had my animal association in here, which is bear, but she has quite a few others. No crow. I was surprised. She goes through colors, metals, elements. There's great charts in here. I love that. Plant allies, different specific plants and what they're good for, many of which are in our own kitchens or in our magical cabinets. Planetary influences. Yeah, so many charts in here. I love it. How to work with the seasons, stone allies, ways to read playing cards. They were in a layover, so she drew whether she should get a room or not. Love that. Yeah, so that's pretty covert. You just look like you're shuffling cards, right? And then she goes into tarot, travel-specific tarot cards. Chapter 3 is all about preparing for travel, but it's even stuff like what to bring or what to think of bringing. And not only practical things, but she goes through things like looking into the culture and customs before you go so you don't, inadvertently offend somebody. This was one of my favorite parts. She adds in a collection of places to start, like different sacred places of the world, which is fantastic because if you're an armchair traveler like I am, then these places will often have websites that you can go to. This was a really good discussion about leaving offerings at sacred sites, that they're so well traveled, right? Frequently visited, that even birdseed or crystal or anything except for like water would be considered trash, right? There's so many that if you leave nothing with any evidence, it's much better. Translated that to my own wanderings. Like usually I'll bring birdseed, which if it's local, it's okay. But if I was traveling to like Spain, I wouldn't want to bring our seed here over there because those seeds might be like invasive species over there, And to leave something with no trace, like just simple watering a plant. This section goes into talking to the divine while you're in transit or on vacation. Pendulum, she highly recommends a pendulum. Of course, she packs her tarot cards and she gives several options for readings, prompts. If I need guidance while traveling, I will often use this layout. Card 1 is situation, card 2 is action needed, and card 3 is the outcome. There's a 5-card travel layout. I like her spells. They use like simple items. So this one is a spell to manifest travel, non-firing clay, like the air dry clay, a lock of your hair and fingernails, a pencil, and a paper map to manifest where you want to go. Nice tips on what to pack, like how to figure out what you need. That was great. Something I would never have thought of. Ways to make your luggage lighter and smaller. Tools for the journey. Oh, working with sigils. This was fantastic. And how, there are main symbols that we all know, like the plane, and ones that you can create. And she walks you through that. The low shoot grid and variations of that, the magic square. Ways to use sigils covertly, like drawing a sigil on a candle, draw on the fogged mirror after a shower. Love that. Great ideas. How to charm jewelry, clothing, and how different everyday things can represent the elements, like a birthday candle is a fire and wand. A penny represents earth and a pentacle. The needle is the athame and air, and the thimble is a water and chalice. Thimble, a little fairy chalice. How to set yourself up energetically for travel, how to do the bubble protection. She has calling in the guardians and working with your deities while I travel. A word about cultural appropriation. This was excellent. Travel deities, different deities specific to traveling. Like this one, Khonsu in Egypt, the god of travelers. He was depicted as a young man who traveled across the night sky, crowned by a rearing cobra and a moon disk. The baboon and the falcon are sacred to him, sometimes referred to as the pathfinder and the defender. He watched over travelers at night. An incense offering to Khonsu might include rose, mint, or ginger. So maybe you could make a sachet of those, and if you're flying, right, like a falcon to wherever baboons are from, I don't know where baboons are from, then that would be a good god to incorporate into your practice. Khonsu. Of course, Poseidon for ocean voyages, right? This is a great section for everyday magic. An altar gathering. Create a generic altar or set aside space within your usual altar area at least a month before you leave, ideally at the new moon. Like she's talking about finding the deity to work with and maybe even finding where you want to travel. See if anybody calls to you for that destination. She says, don't start with specific symbols, just a petition for guidance using your own words. Over the next few weeks, spend time there daily, contemplating whom you might feel drawn to or who most appropriate. As you go through your ordinary life, look for signs and items that speak to you and your upcoming travels. At the full moon, look at what has accumulated. Is there a pattern or connection? So it's like a place of gathering all the things that calling to you, and then you can put it all together and find a place that you want to go. I'm going to try that for my armchair travel. Chapter 6 is magic by location. Here she's talking about how the sites themselves may prompt magic and what different areas are good for. High in the mountains is sacred to fire and earth, a perfect choice for magic involving lifting oneself, seeking truth, and opening to abundance. Yeah, there's so much more than travel in here. I was so surprised. Inviting the powers, it's how she calls in the quarters, how to work with each power, generating a journey spell. This was fantabulous. I love paper planes. I used to make them with the kids all the time. She's talks about candle magic. So she does say that you can enchant a battery-operated candle. There's a fabulous mirror spell. And here she was in a cafe in Barcelona, and this guy was giving her creepy looks. And what she did with the mirror spell, that was good. I was laughing. See, this is just working with water, sea magic, snow and ice magic. She recommends a lot if you're going to start traveling to be aware of specific scams. And yeah, she gives tons of resources and how to avoid different scams. Chapter 7 is specific spells and charms. This is starting off points to use them to adapt to wherever you're going. This is a good one for people afraid to fly. Charm bag to avert anxiety. Charm for safe travels. Oh, a knot ladder. She does a lot with knots and embroidery thread, which I thought was a great idea. Different runes that you can use for travel. There's lots of recipes. And this was my favorite chapter. Travel is a state of mind. How to travel without leaving home. So I love that. And here's another tip about virtually visiting a popular tourist destination. Like, there's lots of websites online that will take you right there and do like a virtual walkthrough, a virtual tour now. Lets us know a few things that have virtual tours already that she knows of. Famous museums, like the Catacombs in Paris has a walkthrough, I guess, which that's where Quinn got my little deck from Paris, my playing card deck. So that would be interesting to go see. I'm going to go visit that one. Eating the foods of other cultures. Oh, I would love to do that. She shares good things to include in a travel altar. Some double duty things like a safety pin or a sewing pin. Some herbs. White birthday candle, right? Either white or black. How to plan your days using magic-based timing. Like Fridays are creativity, Thursdays finances. I've switched to doing my money bowl and dedication on Thursdays. There's a few appendices back here that make for very easy access to information. A glossary and then a great bibliography, which I love. So yeah, she gives you further reading and where she got all her information from. That's great. I really enjoyed this book and all the magical and everyday recommendations for travel that she gives. What I especially appreciated was that so many of the ideas can be used in other parts of magical practice, and it's not just about travel. Lisa's writing is clear, friendly, and just easy to read. Her techniques use simple, everyday ingredients, nothing you have to go out and buy, most of the things you'd already have on hand or could find in nature, which I really appreciated. My favorite part of the book was all the suggestions about for those of us that can't travel and how to still connect with the magic of exploring new places, even if we're doing it from home. I can't wait to use that chart. Where was it? 80. Oh, there it is. Not chart, list. Sorry. Of all the sacred places, or some. Here's a collection to jumpstart your research, she says, and lots of sacred sites on Earth that might have websites and, virtual walkthroughs and stuff. So I'm excited to look into that further. I highly recommend this book for anyone who's magically inclined, that loves travel or dreams of it but likes to stay home. There are so many ideas in here that I wouldn't have thought of, and the spells and workings can be easily adapted whether you're going abroad or just heading to the local grocery store. I'd like to thank Crosscrow Books again for sending this my way. All the links will be in the description if you'd like to pick this one up. And until next time, I'm wishing you many blessings. Bye, friends.